Let's do it.
We are back with Going for a Take. My name is Matt.
I'm Ben, and we're back for another episode.
I've Gone for a Take without an Ollie. Ollie is in Spain having a great time somewhere.
So jealous, and we're in sunny Manchester.
And today's guest?
Well, we're joined with an actor. He's best known for his work on Years and Years After the Flood. He's currently starring in season 2 of Ridley and has a very cool short film out at the moment. It's George Bukhari. How you doing, man?
Yes, good, thank you. Very well.
Good.
It's really good to meet you, man. Obviously, we've crossed paths a couple of times. You said that you'd seen Mojo. I feel like I just see you around Manchester circles as well.
Yeah.
Particularly 53-2. I feel like I've seen you there.
But I keep low.
You keep low?
Yeah.
Kind of
in the corner, just watching people.
Just in the corner.
Like a weirdo.
With a wine.
Yeah, where's George? Oh, there he is.
So yeah, really nice to actually properly get to meet you. Doing a lot of cool stuff at the moment. Obviously, so it's today we're filming. Obviously, this like a week early or whatever. Today, season 2 of Ridley's coming out.
Yeah.
Is that going to be all available to stream straight away?
I believe so. Yeah, they've changed the format this year. They've done it episodically last season.
Sick. Okay.
But this one, I think, to attract to a younger audience.
Yes.
I think that doesn't work that terrestrial way of giving it week by week, sorry. To put it all online so it can be streamed. So yeah, I believe so. It worked in America, so I think they're trying to.
Look forward to watching some of it.
It's not for you though. You're too young for that.
What's that?
It's not for you're too young.
For Ridley?
Yeah.
I'm actually 42, so...
They're perfect
He's
for you.
got such a baby face. A little bit of stubble coming through now.
Oh, stop it. I'm blushing.
This is taking a couple of weeks.
Give me 10 years and there'll be something.
You were like, wow, your beard's coming through. I'm like, I just not shaved for 2 weeks, bro. There's enough.
Yeah.
That's all that's going on.
2 weeks and I get that and that's
yeah.
it.
It's the Spanish side in you coming out.
Yeah.
But anyway, digressing. Obviously, we'll get on to Ridley when we move on to you later on in the chat. But obviously, Gone for a Take. So we get a take on a film of your choice, and you fancy talking about 28 years later.
Yes.
So, what was everyone's just a general take? What was their take on the new Danny Boyle film?
Do you want me to go first?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm a massive fan of the art house films with 28 Days Later and 28 Weeks Later, and it launched. Well, it didn't launch Danny Boyle, but because he was already quite big and bubbling. And
Did it come out before Trainspotting? I actually don't know off the top of my head.
I think it was. I'm not. Don't quote me on that, but I think it was.
Maybe Shallow Grave. 28 Days.
I think it's Shallow Grave. Yeah, well, it's I was just saying before, a good mate of mine's Christopher Eccleston. I'm meeting later on, and Shallow Grave and 28 Days Later, he was a part of that sort of franchise of Danny. Danny Boyle is a genius.
Yeah.
And I watched 28 Years Later expecting that it was a brilliant film, but I mean, I wanted that art house style.
Yeah.
And they've gone with the times by going it with the mobile shots. And I get that. It's like the new art house kind of way to shoot a movie, isn't it?
Yeah.
But then I found the narrative a bit unresolved for me. I thought it went into a different world than what I was expecting. These zombies now they're supposed to be dead. The virus is supposed to take away all sort of cognitive functional behavior.
Oh, yeah.
And now they want to reproduce, and you have this zombie running around with a 12-inch cock.
Yeah, that's the first thing I
just talking about how long
I was it's running for a train and it's dick swinging side to side.
I was in the front row as the last tickets left, and I was ducking and weaving. It was like an immersive experience.
Yeah, I was just my whole evening just became waiting for that. Do you know what I mean?
It was just a choice. And also I was chatting to my sister because she saw it a couple of weeks before, and she was saying that obviously it was all prosthetics or whatever because of the people on set. So it was just a choice. They were just this guy has to have a huge penis. He didn't have to.
Yeah.
But he was an alpha zombie though. He's
alpha zombie, so he had to
have something.
But my issue with that is if they've lost cognitive function, how are they able to stimulate themselves?
Yeah, true.
That's where I know it's really not wanky, but I'm allowed to swear.
Yeah,
right. It is a bit wanky for me to say that because it's an unreal world. But I'm a massive fan of those two films, and I wanted the same. I'm going to watch that, and actually, the start of the film was brilliant because I felt like they moved on and they found civilization again in this dystopian world. So I was bought into it that they're now growing vegetables and now they've separated themselves from the wider city where it's dangerous. Yeah. But then when they're starting having babies and the babies are now normal, I get the evolution of life and all that kind of stuff. But then when he's running around with a stimulated cock, I'm like, But I thought this virus has took away cognitive behavior and function. So I was just like, well, that makes sense to me. I like the fact that now they're reproducing kids who are not affected by the virus, but their whole organism is supposed to be dead. So I don't. The narrative was a bit like,
yeah, it was a bit jarring, I guess. I don't know. I think I saw like obviously a fair few people have been discussing this as well. I saw a clip with Alex Garland talking about how he'd been looking at sort of packs of wolves and stuff, and in terms of, and we're talking about like alpha kind of leader and how they would. Because obviously I don't know any of the science. I've not actually seen 28 Weeks Later. Is that the second one?
Yeah.
So I don't know if they go into the science behind the rage virus or whatever in that one. But if it's like 28 years later, how would they have survived if there's now no, for them nothing to feed on because humanity like have found themselves in this like enclosed place? You can assume everyone else has found a way to survive. So all these zombies now have no way to actually nourish themselves.
Well, don't you see some of them like eating worms off the ground?
Worms,
and stuff?
yeah, but that's not enough to like think about the whole kind of human organism. So yeah, I guess they were like, okay, well they've got to survive. So I guess it was maybe just like a writing choice that they had to make to be able to have them still going strong.
Well, I feel like,
but I guess they don't explain the reproduction and all that kind of
no,
stuff.
and they might do later on. But I for someone who's watched and been a massive fan of that franchise, I just weren't bought into the fact that now this zombie has got cognitive behavior and he's now probably reproducing dopamine and you have to be attracted to something to be stimulated, like that's taking it away from the whole virus, which is supposed to then just put that person into fight mode and just wanting to eat everybody.
But I feel like as well, if all the zombies did die, then there wouldn't really be much of a film. And then the devil's advocate of me is like, well, the film feels like it's a film about connection. And if you don't have the isolation of these people on an island because of the zombies, then there's no need for connection because they have it already. So part of the interesting thing for me was seeing that journey of a kid who is born into a place where he's safe, but feeling like you want more. And as human beings, you always seek for more, even when you're comfortable, because that need for connection is vital in any life. And you even see it with the zombies to an extent of, you see the alpha zombie having a relationship with, what's he called? What's the actor called?
Oh, the
Bold. Plays
the doctor?
Yeah.
Kelson, I think he's called.
You know what's his actual? It's he was in Schindler's List, wasn't he?
Oh,
Ralph Fiennes. Yeah.
There's another coffee over there.
I need it. But anyway, you see how they have some sort of a relationship of like he knows him already. So it's interesting to see how that human development of, well, yeah, they're two completely different beings, but ultimately at their core center of them, they're the same. Except they both have the same needs, the need to survive, but one is a so-and-so zombie with a 12-inch cock and the other one is a human.
I guess there's a question of, I don't know if they explore it in, because I did rewatch 28 Days Later a couple months back, but you said you were a big fan of the franchise.
Oh yeah.
Do they explore like what the virus actually does to them? So you say it like removes cognitive function. It doesn't really go into it
No, because they didn't know the science. It was just chaos. There was no, well, not what I recall anyway.
Yeah.
I think for 28 years later, my kind of walking away going, what's that about? It was about the cycle of life. Because if you remember this woman, just because we're living in an apocalyptic dystopian world, that doesn't stop that woman from having cancer. And then life will find a way, in those words from Jurassic Park. Now they are reproducing and life will continue. So for me, it was a message of life and hope to a degree. They take away the Heno guy with the 12-inch cock. Take that out of it. It was quite poetic. And that's what Danny Boyle's brilliant at anyway. And survival. But no, they didn't. And maybe they'll make some sense.
Oh,
because apparently they shot 2 films.
So in 6 months, the Bone Temple comes out, but it's a different director, which is interesting.
Oh, so they've done 2 blocks then?
Yeah, they've done 2 blocks.
That would have been a big shoot, probably. 12 months maybe.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I think the kid, what's he called? The guy who played Spike, Alfie
Williams
was just in pretty much every day which is impressive. But yeah, going back to it, I think the that survival kind of thing, just a thought in my head of is if something removes all like cognitive function, I'm going like all sciencey now. Does that also remove like their need to survive? And is a natural need to survive to reproduce? Like is a need to survive also just to survive as oneself or to survive as like a community?
Yeah.
Or like I'm thinking like what's the like most basic thing like an amoeba or like bacteria?
They reproduce. They don't have the thought process of it, but they have to survive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But is that
Make you ill.
like inspired by like any chemicals, or is it just they just do?
Cycle
No, it's
of
a
life.
natural human thing. Like there's that real good podcast with the Diary of a CEO. I forgot the doctor's name. And
yeah.
actually, us humans, we're just here to reproduce.
Yeah.
And that's the animal in us is just to basically
If you boil us all
accept
down
and,
to-
and to continue the cycle of life. There's a thing in, and I get it's movies, but again, I'm a bit deep like that. 28 years later, and there's still zombies who are running about. They should have actually all have deceased by then.
What was that last bit?
They should have all deceased.
Yeah.
Because do they even have the ability to know how to drink water?
Yeah,
they can't survive on worms.
That was a weird moment.
Yeah, and that Heno guy was massive. He was hench.
Yeah.
So that doesn't make sense because
10,000 calories a day. minimum
yeah,
for that,
exactly. Where's he getting that from?
Yeah.
Worms.
He needs his protein goals.
Yeah. So
Off camera, he's
Yeah.
there like
I think I would have loved it when I seen it, where there is still a threat out there, but I would have found it more fulfilling if I would have seen this world starting to build again. And then going back from, it felt like the Stone Ages when they first started that film. Like there's no electric, they're having to, grow vegetables again. That would have been more stimulating to me to watch and go, oh, they're starting life again. And now they're going to build a civilization. And yeah, there's still probably the odd zombie out there, what becomes a threat. But, that would have been better, I think.
Yeah.
And I know we're getting deep, but
Yeah, of course.
there's definitely like a lot of that kind of thing around literally what you were talking about in terms of restarting civilization and how different groups of people these are, obviously we've gone into loads of spoilers already. This is a major spoiler for the very end of the film. How every different sort of faction or different person has a different way of surviving. Like if we were to look at, the people within the community, like Jamie, who's Aaron Taylor Johnson's character, quite patriarchal, passing like the ways of being a man down to his son. And it's got all that like found footage. It goes back to what you were saying in terms of going back to the Stone Ages, and it has all that footage of like archery and like going back to the medieval times and stuff like that. And I was wondering what you guys thought about how they edited all that footage into it. Did you find it jarring at all, or did it sort of in that very like Danny Boyle kind of effect just like flavor it in an experimental kind of way?
That's interesting actually, because thinking about it, there was different tones and levels to the acting, but I suppose it fits into that world. I don't know if I'm segueing away from what you've just asked.
No. The tangents are the best kind of conversation.
Yeah.
And if it ever comes around full circle, it was always meant to happen.
Yeah, because if you seen when Ralph Fiennes came on,
Yeah.
the whole style and tone to that film dropped. And it went into a very crafted style of delivery, and that's. I was like, what? Because Ralph Fiennes is a fine actor,
Very fine.
very
Fine.
crafted, very
Yeah.
crafted. Like, and actually, with the family in this new world that they've created, it was still quite raw, and very Ken Loach-y kind of style of acting. Very Shea Meadows kind of feel to the pace and the tonality and the emotional delivery of the lines, and then when Ralph Fiennes comes on, he just goes boom.
Yeah.
It grounds the whole thing.
Yeah.
It felt to me, it felt
It's
like
all
it was
that poetry.
it was very intense, and then Ralph Fiennes came, it got grounded, and then it became more about this is what life is about.
Yeah.
And towards the end of the film, when Isla, played by Jodie Comer, is basically killed because she has cancer, I was like, wow. It took a turn that I didn't expect, because usually when you watch a film, you're like, oh, and then they save the cancer and she's happy again. And it's like, oh, wow, what an end to a film. But instead it just went, that's not how life works. And this is how life works, is you have cancer, you might not survive. And the reality of the film is she doesn't. you see the pain, and then you see Spike go on this journey from there to the next film of like, where's he gonna go now that he's not got someone to look after or look upwards at, because he's become lost in a way. And that is what life is about, really, is you get lost and you figure out your way.
Yeah, and he learned something about himself, and there's two things with when you drop boundaries as a human, which I found quite real in that film, is it's either trauma or intimacy. You learn so much about yourself.
Yeah.
Example, you know, I'm writing a play at the moment about, it's called Casual, and it's about a recent experience where I've had a casual relationship, but then I've caught feelings, where normally I've had casual relationships, blah, 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 and then gone, which is fine. It's, you know, it's what we do as humans. But then I'm segueing slightly, but it comes back into what you're saying with the film, with that boy. Is I learned so much about myself through the trauma of not being loved back. And trauma does that. Your boundaries drop and you learn something about yourself. And that boy, when he lost his mother, decided he was set free, because actually he was caring for his mother and all that kind of stuff, and that doctor's advice. And, you know, he lost his mother through cancer, and you could see the trauma that he was carrying, but then he was set free. You know, he learned something about himself, and I found that quite real. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was truthful, you know, and he left his dad behind, and he set up and he flew the nest, you know. And then the last scene with Jack O'Connell, he's found these chaotic characters, which actually is probably what's going on in his head.
Well, the thing with
you think that was happening within his head? That...
Oh yeah, he's just lost his mother. He's not going to be as calm as that. His emotions. That's for me. I could be completely wrong, but obviously
I haven't seen that take online.
Yeah,
That's
you
really
got
cool.
to be deep, because he's, you know, he's not going to learn, you know, lose his.
He's just
mum.
held his mother's skull.
Yeah. I've lost a parent, so I know what goes on in that mind.
Yeah.
When it's happening, you might be playing calm and subdued, but he didn't really cry. He didn't really bereave. He learned something and set himself free. And these chaotic characters of all those narratives, what are that probably going on in his head? You know, they became action figures. Do you remember the flipping? And it was...
Didn't he have a red Power Ranger? Was it his character? Spike had a Power Ranger at home in his bedroom. Or it might have been Jimmy in the very first moment.
If that is, then that's brilliant, because it all comes together.
Kind of comes back together.
He's created that reality in front. Who knows? That's what I got when walked away.
Well, the thing is...
What was your take on that last scene? Then?
Well, Jimmy Crystal, the guy at the end, played by Jack O'Connell, is the same boy at the start of the film when he lost his parents as a kid. It's like a full circle moment. And it's like, well, all these people have lost people in their lives because of the virus.
Yeah.
And they don't know how to deal with it. So they, you know, they wear a cross upside down and create a little cult and find a way of figuring out together of how to deal with this.
Yeah. Keep going, sorry.
There was a quote I read from, I think it was the Diary of the CEO. And it was, you spend your whole life trying to understand your childhood.
Yeah.
And I think it's very true to an extent, because you're so, your childhood is reflected in your life so deeply every day even on a subconscious level, and you don't even realize it. And, you know, when you're a kid, that's when the mark is being made on you and how you perceive life, and why it's important to find ways of being a kid again, so you can understand that a bit more. Because intimacy to me is almost like you're a kid again. You're not thinking about the future. You're present in the moment, and as a kid you don't think about the future, you think about here and now. You play with your Power Rangers and you mess around. And
boundaries are dropped with kids. The amount of, you know, your kids, they say to each other all the time, I love you, and they probably actually mean it, but there's no suppressive boundaries, and that's what I was going back to trauma and intimacy. This one time, like with the casual thing, and I'm writing about, is I dropped my boundaries and I learned something about myself, that I need to do this, I need to do that. That's what that kid, he learned that he needed to go.
There's so much that I can jump off.
Yeah,
how much time do we have? Another 5 minutes. Sick. Okay, what was it?
We're getting very deep.
Yeah, I loved it though. That's
but this whole thing about, because it's again something, it's weird when obviously once people open up, then it's actually like everyone's kind of thinking about this similar things anyway. Because I've just started being in a relationship recently, and I feel like it took me to 28 to realize that a lot of the time, one, it's like a lot about compromising. It's about like what can I do to make them happy too. Which is like obvious, but it's like, no, you do have to sort of rectify that in your head. And then it's also, you have to be open to getting hurt. I think I had to like go, okay, you know what, this could end badly and I could get upset with it. But the only way I'm going to find out whether it's going to work or not is to just throw myself in and commit to it and see. It's really interesting about that idea where it's like letting down boundaries. I think as a society, just because the world is so overstimulating anyway, I find it particularly overstimulating. Like it does feel like I have to put on like a defensive
Like
kind of
armor.
like yeah. And like finding someone that you're able to obviously like that's healthy. Like people do need boundaries to an extent. There was I think I maybe referenced it on a podcast ages back where there was a therapist and she was talking about how you could be like a bottle of water, but if you don't have the bottle, it's just water and it's just sloshing around and there's no use for it. There's no usefulness to it. And it's not drinkable. Whereas you need like those boundaries, those barriers on the outside to be able to keep you intact. And it's like, I guess maybe knowing like when to have those boundaries up and when to like let them go, knowing which people you can let them go with. And then there was something else you were talking about with like, I was about to go off on like neuroscience or something.
I just wanted to jump off your point about the bottles then. I think also you need the bottle, but you also need the cap for the bottle, because if you don't have a cap to let the water go out, then that's dangerous, I think. Because,
it's in like bubble up out?
Yeah, there's a book I read a while ago which talks about, everybody is a different type of glass. So for example, you could be a shot glass, you could be a pint glass, you could be a wine glass, and each of them has a different amount of water you can put in it. But imagine water as being emotions, and some people have quite a short fuse, so there'd be a shot glass, and when it goes, but only 50 milliliters of water goes out of the shot glass. Some people are like a pint glass where you fill it up and you don't see that emotion, but it's constantly being filled, and then it gets to a point where it overflows, and it's like because you've got a whole like liter of water just go everywhere. And I think what it was talking about is you have to find a way to allow the glass to fill up, but have a little screw at the bottom like you can just turn so that as it's filling up, it's also draining, so it stays at a balance. Because like anything, you need a balance, and if you don't have that, extremes are dangerous.
I think it also maybe relate more once we move on to the second part as well. We talk more about you and acting styles, but having that vulnerability and ability to let go of the barriers. Yeah. And like you have done. Yeah. And then you got the feelings, and now you're creating something which like you're excited about.
And it's well was not, because it was not reciprocated. So that's when I learned a lot about myself. But I look then back to, because I teach actors when I'm not acting. I've always done that because I had a little exposure to be working in casting when I was at drama school. Cool. And that's where I fell in love with working with actors. And most of the actors I work with are doing better than me. But that's okay, because that's still, I live it through them. But actually, when I look back at the times where I've worked at Lambda and RADA and taught, actually, I'm teaching actors to be vulnerable again. That's the whole process to Stanislavski's way of teaching, is to find the given circumstances and relate them to yourself. And as an actor, you need to be vulnerable for that. So with heartbreak or with trauma, a heart is broken, and a heart is always hollow until it's broken. And actually,
heart is always what?
A heart is always hollow until it's broken.
Hollow,
yeah.
Okay.
Just shallow, like it's hard, stiff. So I've lost my point now. But yeah, if you are vulnerable, you much more receptive to engaging with connection to text or circumstances. And that's when it all came to epiphany recently, and go, I'm teaching actors this, and now I'm feeling it for real. Like, I can't wait to get a job.
Like, they put this in my work now.
So the next tape is going to be sick.
So that's what I mean. So it's when you're vulnerable and to trauma, or from trauma, or heartbreak, which is something we will all experience together. Well, not together, but at some point. It's something what universally connects us. And actually, if you look at actor training, that's all it's doing, is getting you to get to a vulnerable place so you can relate to what that character's going through. And when watching that film, I'm going to segue back into
that was in my head. I was like, how are we going to get back?
Baby. So when watching that film, that's how I was able to connect to a level with that boy and going, he's just lost his mother.
Yeah.
Those characters is what's going on in his head. Why? Because I lost my dad at 9 and I knew exactly, I didn't cry. I went on a rampage.
Yeah.
And it was that kind of discombobulated narrative in my head. So that was my interpretation of it. But you will all have different. And that's the beauty of films.
Yeah.
It's the beauty of going to watch a piece of Shakespeare. You know, Romeo and Juliet is not just about love, but for some people it will be about love. It might be something else. And that's the beauty of something what Danny Boyle and many other great filmmakers do. It's art house cinema.
I think that's the perfect place to end.
Wow.
Chat on 28 years later.
It's
I'm going to
good
go for a
chat.
cut.
And we're back.
Take it away, Annie. I don't know why I did that.
That was interesting.
That's my brain. There you go. Go on, Ben.
That's that giddy part of you, man. So anyway, we're back onto you now. We're going to talk about Blackpool for a bit because I feel like it's a nice segue from where we just ended. Talk to us about that because it's doing a festival tour at the moment. It's done really well. It's been well received. I saw Shane Meadows had something to say on it as well, which is incredible. What was it like doing that?
It was good. Like I liked when the guys came to me and said, "Oh, we've got this idea." It was supposed to be a proof of concept. It was never supposed to be a short film.
Oh, cool.
It was, it was supposed to be shot for a proof of concept to go around to production companies to try and get it made. And they learned a lot with that, and they're working on it. It is being developed into being a feature now, which is fantastic.
Sick.
Wow.
But I think when they got the material, they were like, actually, this could be a really good short film. Let's put it. It's doing well in the circuits, but the script is about mainly it's about male mental health and how males in particular go to Blackpool to commit suicide.
Is that like
known
a
fact?
That's a thing.
Yeah, known fact. Because originally on the short film, one of the characters supposed to run on the pier and throw themselves into the sea at high tide, which is how people you're supposed to get drunk of alcohol. And you actually die of hypothermia, not drowning.
You just get really drunk and then
you're really cold and then you die.
Oh, Jesus.
But then the Blackpool Council to the film production company were like, you can't do that because this is a really touchy subject for us. And so we had to adapt to doing it on a beach, which is another way. Men strip down naked after an intoxicated day, and then they walk so deep into the water and just stay there for a certain amount of time and they'll pass out through hypothermia.
Oh, Jesus.
So that's actually a fact that Blackpool is a known spot for some reason for males to do it. But
is
actually...
Sorry, keep going.
doing the film, it was great because I've known Andy Ellis since we were 16. And the last time we'd done like a stage play at Sheena Simon College.
That's right. I went.
Yeah, did you? Manchester College. Yeah, good.
Wow.
It was like, 20 years ago. And then now we're on a relatively high budget short film or proof of concept, doing it again together. So it was fantastic. And yeah, it was really good. And have you watched it?
I couldn't find it online, but I've watched the trailers. And
I'll send you it. Yeah,
I'd love to.
Oh, sick.
It's
Cool.
quite. It's interesting. It's when we shot the actual film, there was a point which I've said on another interview is that me and Andy sort of took over the writing at some point because we felt, for instance, there's this scene on the beach where the two men run towards the sea to do that hypothermia sort of way of killing themselves.
What, together?
Well, actually, one becomes a savior, but you'd have to watch.
Cool.
But then there was dialogue in the middle of it, and I was like, get rid of the dialogue. Just put these two men in the water and get them to hug and put a score under it. Do you know what I mean? To make it more cinematic. Because sometimes you don't need dialogue to tell a story. A frame can do it, So yeah, that's Blackpool's good. It's doing well on the circuits, and they're developing a feature out of it now. And Shane Meadows said really good stuff.
Is the short? Obviously, said you could send us a link. Will it be available for like wider release as well?
I'm not sure. I think because I think it's hit some quite big film festivals, and I think they're still aiming for some big uns. So I think they probably want to keep it quite, exclusive for that. I'm not sure. I don't really. Second time I've done a short. No, first time I've done a proof of concept, which turned into a short. It's my second short. But I do think it's a story definitely to tell.
Well, young men especially, suicide is the biggest killer of young men. So, and it's for some reason a taboo topic to talk about suicide, which I think is messed up in a way because it's so common. And there's I'm not going to put any statistics out there because I don't want to get it wrong. However, that the fact that it is one of the biggest killers and it's something which is preventable, it's it's by talking or other different ways. It's really sad, and we all know people that have experienced that, and it's tragic. So when I see films like Blackpool and other films that cover that topic, it really like impacts me in a positive way, because it's like, well, part of that tabooness is fading because there's stuff being put out there now, which is nice.
I'm interested in why Blackpool, of all places, if it's like the lack of sort of opportunities within that area, or if it's something to do with like it's like that romanticization, that's probably not a word, of like Blackpool, and it's like heyday, and if it's actually a particular generation that's going back there to live at large and then end it on a high.
I think it's childhood
memories.
Yeah, I think it's going back to childhood.
Is that something that's explored within the short?
To a degree, yes, but the town itself it feels depressing to be there now, and I don't know what's quite happened with Blackpool. I think Blackpool have been left behind.
Yeah,
if you ask me, because I remember when I was a kid being the most magical place in the world. The lights, the rides, but actually it's the same lights and rides from when I was 12 to 16. Like the town's really deprived actually, and it's really sad to watch. So I don't know. I didn't really ask, to be quite honest. I'm trying to make something up, but I'm just going to be completely honest. I actually don't know why. I know there's a relevance to male suicide in Blackpool, so that's why it'd be. Or I did hear a rumor, but I don't know if it's true, that it was based on a true story.
Okay.
But I'm not. Don't hold me to that because I'm not sure.
Okay. I just want to cycle back to you talking about helping out with the writing. While you were doing it, because you can just remove dialogue and you're able to sort of tell the story through the score or through whatever theatrical modes that you're using.
Well, all I done was offered up
an
I
idea,
because obviously I can't. I'm writing, but I mean that's not my responsibility. But I'm a massive believer that an actor should police a scene. And I just felt like it didn't work. It didn't feel right. So then I offered up to the director going, I think, we could do a version of getting rid of the dialogue and just doing it as movement and putting a score under it. And he had a thought for a little bit and went, actually, I quite like that idea.
Yeah.
And obviously, if it didn't work, he would have backed up and going, let's go back to the dialogue. But I think an actor sometimes, and it's only from me watching older actors do it that I've sort of got the confidence to start doing it again now, is to question more, because you're playing the character. So therefore, it's also your job as an actor to offer. A director's there to filter and to do, artistically from a character point of view. It's not just about learning the lines and knowing the circumstances, also to offer ideas for narrative. And Andy's jumped on it straight away and he agreed. So, and then the director thought about it for a good 2 minutes of just pause. And I think he must have been doing, a brain man thing in his head. And it was like, yeah, I like that idea actually.
Is that something that, obviously you said you've learnt it from other actors. Is that something that you do while you're doing your teaching as well? Because you've opened up a school with Smith and...
No, it's my kids' school. I've got an adult school, which has been going for 2 years. Yes, we do. We offer a way to be able, and that's why we bring in working directors, so the actors can actually, because there's a fine line of doing it. You have to be able to pitch an idea in a certain way where you're not coming over as an issue, a problem. It's about it all. It should always relate back to the story, the narrative. Russell T Davies said to me that story is paramount years ago, and he probably don't even remember, but I remember that, and I was like, yes, it is. For me, characters are actually irrelevant. It's the story that we're telling is the most important thing. If you're going to do, It's a Sin, it's not about this group of LGBTQ plus people living their life. It's about exposing the government to the failings of the HIV crisis and how they were left to die. that's the story.
Mm.
And as an actor, if I can buy into understanding that narrative, it's going to allow me to earn the right to be able to act in that material.
Well, they say an actor serves the story. The story doesn't serve the actor.
Exactly. Yeah. And sometimes, and I'm also guilty of it, especially when I was younger, is thinking that I'm one of the most important people, doing stuff. And actually it's not, it's the story. It's the story that's powerful.
Also, it's funny, when I was younger, I used to think that, actors have so much control. You don't really have any control. You do what you can when you're there, and then you can look great in the edit. You might not look great in the edit. It's not your control.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where it's the story you're telling that's important, and if the story you're telling is crafted in a way which allows the audience to believe it and to what's the word? To put themselves, to have sympathy for that story and put themselves in that story. And that's when you really feel a film and a TV show and a stage and Shakespeare and any sort of art.
It's buying into it, and the great Tim Sheeder, who I collaborated with 4 times now on the West End.
Is that at Regent's Park?
Regent's Park. Tim Sheeder is now the artist director of the Donmar now, which is a very prestigious AD position. And he has this famous speech before you go on for your press night. I've heard it 4 times. It gives me goosebumps every time because it's laughable. When you go back, you think, wow, it is a privilege to be able to tell stories and put on costumes and run around. And that's a real privilege for us to do that. My mum doesn't have the ability to do that. Do you know what I mean? She hasn't got the confidence. She hasn't got the imagination. It's suppressed or limited. For some reason, we've been given that gift, that privilege to be able to put on costumes and tell stories. So therefore, when we do that, we should do things 100%, not just to a degree. And self-tapes are horrible, aren't they? Like, I prefer being in the room, but I mean, you should approach every opportunity to be able to put on a costume and tell a story with 100% commitment, As Andy Nyman says in his book, The Golden Rules of Acting, is auditions are dreadful, but you love to act. So treat an audition as a performance, but just for a small audience.
Yeah.
You could transcend that into the camera work. We love to be on TV sets and being in front of the camera. Well, guess what? You're now doing a self-tape where you are performing and you have got a camera and it's actually fully on your conditions. And when you take that mindset, I enjoy that process so much more better because you're actually just performing, which we say we love to do. So then just fucking do it.
Yeah,
it's
true.
interesting. I fall into that trap, and it's only recently I've started to shift it a little bit where it's I think because I'm in control of the product that's coming out, I like being in the room because I get to banter, do whatever, see how I'm feeling on the day and just let loose and leave. I can park it a bit more. Whereas with tapes, it's, I am in control, and I'm someone that has a habit of trying to control my environment a little bit, which means that when it comes to tapes, I can be quite like, I know what I want and I know how I want it to come across, and this, which means it gets, I guess, perfectionist in a way, which is a good thing too sometimes.
Yeah.
But then actually, I guess it comes back to the vulnerability kind of thing that we're talking about before, where it's just allowing whatever comes up to come up, to just bring your barriers down for a second. And remember it's a privilege, and you're able to perform, and you're able to just let loose. It is so cool when you have that moment. And I wonder if it'd be an interesting experiment with the next tape to remember the amazing moments that I've had on set, where it was just, I remember there was one moment on Good Girls where everything like slowed down. And I just looked around and like the song was coming in through it sounds wanky, but I was just like, holy shit, I'm living the thing that like 15-year-old me wanted to do. And everyone was getting stressed doing all the camera stuff and that. Emma was chilling over there. And I remember just getting a little bit emotional about it. And it'd be interesting to think about that moment each time before then, getting stressed and frustrated when the tech's not working quite well because I'm using like a crappy camera on my phone or whatever, to to flavor that whatever happens in the acting just happens, and we get that privilege to perform. I really love that. What was the book that you mentioned?
Andy Nyman, Golden Rules on Acting.
Golden
He's
Rules
a
of
working
Acting.
actor, Andy Nyman. He's a brilliant actor, but he's
Cool.
not famous. He's just someone who's consistently worked, and you'll know his face as soon as you see it.
Excellent.
And that he written these post-it notes in this book of things that he sort of helped him through get his career, and that's the one that stuck with me.
And obviously, we were talking about stories as well, and the privilege of telling the story. Are there, like, over your career, I read online in the Radio Times article that was posted today about turning down certain roles because of stereotyping. I've done the same. I'm mixed race, but it sometimes feels when you're offered things that are stereotypical. I guess there's a twofold question there, which is what sort of stories are you wanting to tell, and how have you managed to maneuver and navigate that sort of business side of things where you might have to go to an agent and go, this isn't for me?
Yeah.
And has there ever been a moment where there's been like a back and forth about that?
Yes, there has. I'd say it's probably delayed my career in a lot of ways, because when I left drama school, majority of stuff was the things that I mentioned in that article. They were the only options for a brown face and also other people from the global majorities to play the undesirable characters in stuff and small parts. And I was given advice by an older actor is to be very picky about what you do. And that's one of the proudest things in my career I've done. At times I've been broke and not be able to afford my rent. And it's not everyone's journey, but I wanted to do that. I said, whatever I'm going to do, I want to make sure that I'm 100% on the story. And I'm not going to sell myself short with some Asian comedies, which were around a couple of years ago, where they did come after me every year to try and get me to come and do an episode or a series regular. And I was like, no, I'm not doing that. Like, it's not for me. That's not why I got into it. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I think exactly what I said in that article is I was given a really golden opportunity so early on in my career by Nicola Schindler. I'd done like this little part in Happy Valley series 1, and that sort of broke the glass with Red Productions. And straight off the back of that, I got a series regular on a massive TV series, which was my first. I've never had a storyline like it, playing like a double act with Mackenzie Crook. It was the most amazing experience, and I learned so much off Mackenzie Crook, and I was able to have a depthful storyline where I could go to a dark place as an actor and all that kind of stuff early on. And then I thought, oh, this is great. And the series was really successful. And unfortunately, they wanted to change the cast to go to different places, which was for the longevity of the show. The first series was excellent. They wanted to leave it as that and move on, which I was like, as an actor, I was like, I quite like that. Although we've not finished my storyline, but I quite like that. Yeah. But then, for the longevity, it would have been good for it to continue, a bit like Clocking Off. That was where I think they sort of changed ideas, because we were signed on for like 5 years. So I thought, well, don't worry, it's, something will come up. This is a great show. Everyone started to, I'm private on social media. I always try and stay under the radar, but I started to get a little bit of attention, like, who's this? Who's this kid? You could say actors like messaging me. I just watched the series. I thought I'm going to be all right. And then there's two bits of this story. One's about how it can bite you in the arse, and then one's about some of the roles that were coming. So I'll start with I'll do the bite you in the arse first, because then I can segue back into the story. Yeah. The bite in the arse is I become complacent. I had this big part where it was, I was the only unknown in the TV series. I had Michelle Keegan, Jason Manford, all the great telly, Sean Dooley. I had a really esteemed cast, Joe Joyner. So I thought, this is cool, and then getting offered an audition and not preparing and not learning my lines properly. And,
being like, I'll just be given it.
I'll be all right. Like, I see actors do it now. I see young actors when they're 21, 22, and they've just come off a TV show and like, and I was like, don't become complacent. I'm telling you out of experience, because I went when I was, 23, 24 off the back of that show, being told that this person's seen me for this part and they're not seeing anybody else, but you're not big enough for an offer, but you have to go in, say your lines, do it, but we're not seeing anybody else. And I was like, all right, whatever. And I didn't learn my lines.
Oh, yeah.
Huh. So of course, at the end of the day, the director's got to sign you off. It ruined it. And then that production company didn't see me for a long time. You know what I mean? I became complacent. So that was the biggest lesson over, thinking that, you've just done something good, that it's going to continue on. So young actors should watch out for that. Second one would be the storylines that were coming actually were not, the more came in with the comedy of, basically taking the mick out of the culture that shaped me, and also the undesirable characters where I never wanted to play that. I never found it artistically stimulating, and I thought it brings a bad reception to how I want to portray a brown face on telly. And the part of that article they didn't add, actually the sub-editors I think took it out, but it started by saying that I used to sneak down when I was young, when my parents went to bed. I used to sneak downstairs into the living room, in Wythenshawe, and turn on the television and turn it on to mute so they couldn't hear I was awake. And I used to spend all night just watching, post 9 o'clock films, and realizing that there was no brown faces on TV and hardly any, other global majorities. And that's where I thought, yeah, this is weird. And that's where I think cognitively it came from, going, if I'm going to be on telly, like, I want to make sure that if I accept the audition or whatever is right. The only time I've compromised that was with My Jihadi, which was clever, because when I got this, I worked with Al Mackay on Banana, and Al Mackay's a big director now, but I worked with him when he was relatively at the start of his career. I think he's now the lead director of Cobra and stuff like that, and he's just done the Sheridan Smith thing. But he said to me, "You in London?" I was doing a play at the time. I went, yeah, I'm in London. He was like, "Mate, I've got this great script. We're shooting at the moment. Would you think we can squeeze you out for a week for 4 episodes?" I was like, "All right, you're going to do all my episodes in 1 week? Yeah, we'll do it." And I got the script, and first of all, when it said My Jihadi, I thought, nah, I'm not doing that. But then the cleverness of that script is brilliant, because My Jihadi doesn't mean terrorist attack. It doesn't mean global Muslims come together. My Jihadi, the interpretation of My Jihadi actually means my struggle. And My Jihadi for those 2 characters was that they wanted to fall in love, but they couldn't. And that was their My Jihad.
Wow.
Yeah.
So for me, I was like, oh no, I want to do something like that, because that's clever. Because people are going to tune in thinking it's a terrorist breeding ground program, but actually it's actually about love. There's nothing callous in that program. So that's the only time I've gone, no, I want to be a part of telling the story of arranged marriages and how it doesn't work.
Yeah. And kind of subverting the audience expectation of what they're tuning in for.
Yes.
It's always that interesting question of how to get certain people to tune in for the things that you wanted to teach them about, in a way where it's not, not lying to them in terms of the advertising, but it's like, will they tune in for it if they know what the actual material is about? Mm-hmm. And then once they do, then they get to learn about it and educate themselves. I feel like sometimes, being tricky here about what I say, some theatres, I feel like it's probably a thing across the board with theatres in general, that they might put on plays with like brown faces or, like a diverse cast, but I'll go see them and I'll be excited about the story that they're telling, and then I'll look out into the audience and I'll be like, wow, it's just of a certain demographic. It's like above 60 and it's white, and hopefully they're going, oh, they're learning so much about it. But then also you're still wanting the people whose story you're putting on stage to come see that story too. There's no right answer to it. There's no right way of how to answer it or how to do it within theatres.
Theatres, I just want to be... I get times are really strange and hard at the moment. There seems to be no money, and it's the climate that we're living in across the board. Like, people are not being able to afford their weekly shopping. Of course, that's going to have a ripple effect in our business. But, I just find, some theatres they're not... Where's the new writing? Like, I'm seeing adaptations of Great Expectations being set in the partition in India. I'm like, but that's not Great Expectations. You're trying to bring a relatively new story, which is still culturally having a massive impact within the South Asian community, the partition. It's a very tactile and sensitive subject, but you're putting it into an old story. I think it's it's lazy. Like, just do a play about the partition.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
There's almost that risk of well, we're putting it's like we were talking about earlier, is money is the factor in so many things, and
Bums on seats.
literally, and it's annoying because art shouldn't be about the money, but we've gotten to a point with films and TV where there's so much money going into it that it can't be a risk. Like one of the things I like, because I know we have to wrap up soon.
Yeah,
because
we've got time for maybe a couple.
We sped through it.
One more question.
Just all me chatting in it.
but,
It's so hard to like. Go on. I'm about to go off on a tangent too.
one of the things is, it's like one of the things I like about old films, and don't get me wrong, there's a lot of things wrong with old films, but one of the things that is good about them is the fact that you can see the mistakes in the films, and I love that because they've not got millions to spend. You see them in a room and you notice the room and that the cracks and errors of the room, but you don't really care about it because you're focused on two people talking to each other and creating that story. And now it feels like, we've got to have all these big effects to engage someone because people's attention spans are so short that we need to capture them with all these big like bangs and then these Marvel films and all of this, and people just want to hear stories, and stories don't have to be expensive. Stories just need to be told.
You don't have to do a fancy gimmick with it being like a modern retelling of, like you say, great expectations about partition. Just give me the partition. Just
story,
like educate people. Most people don't know anything about it.
But I get it because it's the only way to put bums on seats. People go, great expectations, great.
And then they learn
re-educates
kind of vicariously through that about, and then they might go, oh, we should probably go learn about this thing. It sounds important. I guess really too. So obviously Ridley's coming out tonight. It'll be out by the time this episode comes out. What can viewers expect from your character coming into season 2?
Season 2 is great. There's a twist for Darren at the end, which hopefully sets something up for the future.
For season 3 potentially.
Well, we don't know.
Cool.
The whole point to Ridley is for it to continue on. That was always the plan, I think. So they've sort of focused on certain characters each season, and Brona Wall definitely. Well, she's one of the leads anyway, but I mean, it's really her kind of story and her dilemmas of her balance between family and police life. So it's good, but there's a little twist for Darren at the end, which is interesting, and it is South Asian related.
Cool. Wow. Okay. Cool.
Which again, not a lot of people will know about until they watch.
Exciting.
It's
Ben?
exciting. Well, I was just going to say it's out by the time this episode comes out, so everyone should go and check it out. I certainly will be. It's been a pleasure to have you on.
It's been lovely properly meeting you, man. This was Going for a Take, a new episode. Like, comment, subscribe, and we see you next 2 weeks for whoever the next guest is.
Surprise.
It's been a pleasure, dude.
A wrap.
Thank you.
That is a wrap.